Hello there everyone, my name is Meghan LeVota and I'm an ENFJ. So I wanted to talk about generalizations of behavior in the typology community. When do I personally think that those are okay? When they're not okay? I mean, I'm not telling you what to do, this is just my opinion, so it's not like I'm gonna be the police over here. But it's important to remember that when we're talking about personality typology, we're talking about cognition. We aren't talking about behavior. So cognition can influence behavior. Okay, I'm falling. Cognition can influence behavior, but it doesn't dictate behavior. One way of thinking of it is like your personality type will show you what kind of engine you have, but it won't show you where you're going. Like if you were a car, it might tell you what kind of car, but it won't tell you where you're going. So cars can go fast and slow. Some cars are better for highway miles and some are better for city miles. Like there's all these sorts of things. So you can look at the engine and say certain things about a personality type. If you could look at the cognition of you and assume some things, but it's important to remember that of course everybody is capable of doing everything because we are all human beings and deep down we all have human engines. The 16 types are just different ways that these engines could run cognitively in the brain. So it's important to remember that this has to do with your mind and your thoughts. Even feelers, they're using FE and FI are cognitive processes. We all have emotions that funnel through these engines, but for feelers, our thoughts, our cognition is focused on those emotions perhaps more than a thinker would. But just being a feeler or thinker doesn't dictate, one, how emotional you're going to be or how intellectual you're going to be, how intelligent you're going to be, those sorts of things. I know I've said this time and time again, but I want to connect it to this point that the reason why it doesn't matter because it has nothing to do with the engine. You can think of feelings or your emotions as almost like a fuel going through you, or even like, and you can think of your intellect as also some sort of fuel, you know. So yeah, and so the reason why we cannot 100% predict behavior with personality type is because every individual is going to do what, you know, makes sense to them. And they're going to use their tools, their set of tools, their engine to get where they want to go. So if personality typology can't tell you what a person's going to do, then what good is it for? Some of you may be asking. And I think it's important to know that scientifically, the Myers-Briggs is not valid, at least not now. Perhaps someday it will be. But why is it not valid? Because it has not been found to predict behavior. And some people, you know, are trying to have it predict behavior. But if you talk to anyone in the typology community, they're probably going to tell you, well, no shit, it doesn't predict behavior. That's not what it's supposed to do. And science is over here like, well, why should we care about it? Because what we're trying to do here is predict behavior. Well, I think that the value of understanding personality type isn't about predicting behavior, but it's about understanding the engine, understanding somebody else's cognition, and understanding how they work, how they process. And I think, you know, that you could even think of it as like TI in a way. TI is introverted thinking. It is someone's own subjective personal process. It works for them. It might not work for everyone else, but it works for them. It's almost like cognition is like the TI of you. It's not telling you the FI of you. The FI of you would be your values, you know, what you believe in. Those things you can't glean from a personality type. I do think personally that Enneagram is more of an FI system. It's like, this is your root fear. And Enneagram is better at predicting what you will do, because your fears actually predict where you want to go. That's why Enneagram is better at predicting what you'll do, because FI, fears, predicts TE, what you will do, what actions you'll take, and that's an extroverted function of what you'll actually do. But personality type is like the TI of you. It's a system of you. It's not your fear. It's not your, I know a lot of people say preferences, but I don't really like to think of it as preferences. It's more like your preferred system. I personally believe there are 16 types of systems that you could have, and you are one or the other. You aren't, it's not like you prefer being an ENFP one day and you prefer being an ENFJ another day. So it is a system of you, and it's just kind of how it is. It's kind of embedded, I personally believe. The same way that Enneagram people talk about how these things are embedded spiritually, like you have this need, this emotional need that is deep and specific to you. For me, I'm a type 2, and so I have this deep, specific need to be loved, that I feel that more than other people. That's not an ENFJ thing. Not all ENFJs are going to feel that way. But perhaps you will find some commonalities, a lot of ENFJ type 2s. Perhaps that's because the system, the engine of being an ENFJ is compatible with being a type 2. I don't know the reasons for that. I do know that when you look out into the world, there does seem to be some correlations. A lot of INFPs are type 4s. A lot of INTPs are type 5s. A lot of ESFJs are type 6s. But any engine can be compatible with any fuel. Some are just, more rare than others, just like INFJs and INTJs are more rare than other types. But pretty much what I'm getting at here is that because I'm a type 2, you can guess at some things that I might do. I might feel the need to reach out to friends and compliment people and like all those things. Just because I'm an ENFJ, you don't know that I'm going to feel that need. But because I'm an ENFJ, you do know that if I have that need, then I would be using FE to fill that need, because FE is my toolbox. That is my system. That's what I'm working with here. If an ENFJ wants to be a super intellectual type of person, they can do that. If they have a lot of intellect in their fuel, they're just going to have to go through FE first before they get to TI. That's just how it's going to be for them. If you are an ENFP or ENTP and you're super interested in sports, that doesn't mean that you can't engage physically. Like, you have a body for a reason. You're just going to have to use your NE to sort of make it a game first, make it interesting first to you before you engage in your SI, and you're going to have to use SI as opposed to SE when you engage physically. So why does all of this matter? The reason why I was talking about this is because a lot of people talk about generalizations in the type community, and I think that those can be bad, but I think that the generalizations that are okay are the groups of behavior that you can see that is directly based on the fact that that person was using a certain function. So, for example, let's say some people are really needy. Some people are very clingy. If you were to be like, man, which personality type would be more likely to be clingy? You can't know that, because to be clingy is an emotional root. It's not a logical root. It's an FI root. It's not a TI root. You can say, oh, I feel like type 2s are the most likely to be clingy if you're talking about Enneagram. You can't make those sort of generalizations with Myers-Briggs, but the generalizations that you can do are almost like, so TI is the root of FE, FI is the root of TE. And if we think of both FE and TE as different ways of grouping human interaction, human behavior, I think what gets people off track is when they're making TE generalizations about the personality types. That is inaccurate. If you make FE generalizations about the personality type, it is more likely to be accurate because personality type is a TI system. It is your cognition. Let me think of an example. Okay, INFPs tend to be more private than ENFJs. Why is that generalization accurate? Because it's not based on an emotion. It's based on the fact that FI works in this way and FE works in this way. Because extroverted feeling is extroverted feeling, it needs to share its emotions outwardly as it processes. FE doesn't know what it feels until it is saying it out loud and interacting. FE doesn't know if it likes you unless it has spent time engaging with you. That's why FE users are so more likely to go on lots of dates, because they're going to want to figure you out. Whereas if you compare INFPs and ENFJs, INFPs are going to be more likely to be the ones not wanting to go on a lot of dates and really decide what their FI actually wants in a person and then put themselves out there with the right person. Also, because FI is so sensitive at every little thing, they don't want to risk rejection. Because that's how FI works. If they had FE, they might do something different. But because they are FI dominants, they know what they want and they have very specific qualifications. They know themselves so deeply that they can pretty much predict when, like, how relationships would fail before they even start. As an ENFJ, I don't have that sense of FI self-awareness, but I do have this sense of emotional openness that makes it easy for me to open up to people, like, especially when I was single, when I would just date people, I would just be like, oh, let's just get to know each other. And because I don't have FI, I'm not super emotional if someone rejects me, because I have TI and I'm like, you know what? It's fine. I guess it just didn't work. I'm not gonna cling to things that don't work because I have TI and I'm focused on what works for me. I'm not focused on what my specific emotions are, like an FI user. Because for me, my emotions are very changeable. So I can get along with pretty much anyone if I set my mind to it. And, you know, I'm not that great at predicting how relationships might fail before they start. And so that's why I use my FE to engage with people first, to try and feel them out and see how I react to them and see what emotions tend to come up for me. That works for me because I am an FE dominant, and when I share my generalizations on this page, I'm using FE to make those generalizations. These things happen, these things are patterns because it is directly because of the function. The only way to truly know what your personality type is to define yourself by the functions. Any set of behavior could be any personality type. The interesting thing is to look at why they did that behavior. For example, an ENFJ could be more private with dating, but it wouldn't be for the same reason. It would be because they were hurt in the past. It wouldn't be for the same reason that the INFP is private while dating. So if you look at two people who are private with dating and they have walls up, if they look at the INFP and the ENFP, or if you look at the INFP compared to the ENFJ is going to have walls up because they don't feel like they can emotionally give right now, and because they are not emotionally over a situation. An INFP may or may not be over a situation. Perhaps they just are that way. They're going to have completely different reasons for their behavior. So if you look at the reasons behind the behavior, the TI root behind the generalization, and if that TI reason is because you use a set of functions, then your generalizations are more likely to be accurate and they're more likely to be applied to the entire group of people. But that being said, no matter what generalization you have, we're all unique, and there's going to be outliers. There's not one rule of thumb that you could put anywhere. And so if any of you guys are coming to personality type because you're looking for a rule of thumb and you're looking to sum people up, look elsewhere, because that's not going to work. Every individual has a variety of different motivations. The only thing that starts to get interesting is to understand the engines, understand where people are coming from. Because if you can understand where people are coming from, then you can understand their behavior better. But you can't predict their behavior because people are their own individual free agents and free will exists. You can never predict what somebody else is going to do because you're not them. You can only understand and predict or look at where they're coming from. And that's what personality type can help you do. You can look at where someone's coming from. I can't tell you if this type and this type are going to be perfect matches, but I can tell you that, for example, my friend is an INFP dating an INTP. And some of you guys might be thinking like, man, I don't know if that would be a very great personality type match. But for them it works because what happens with them is the INFP will say, hey, what you just did right now hurt my feelings. She's using her FE a little bit because she's learned from the past through her SI that keeping her emotions in isn't going to work with relationships. So she's sort of stressing her FE and being like, hey, that hurt my feelings. And then the INTP, you know, has learned from past relationships that FE is also important. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I don't want you to feel that way. What can I do to change? And it's, you know, that they work. They figured out a way to work. Any two people can figure out a way to work. The only reason why personality type is interesting is to, like I said, know where the person's coming from. But where they're also coming from is their past experiences, their beliefs, their emotions, their life purpose. And when I say their life purpose, what I mean is that certain groups of people are put on earth for different reasons. Some people are meant to, you know, be super career minded, and that's where I think astrology comes into, if you guys are interested in astrology. For me, I am sun in the first house and I am moon in the 10th, and that is why I think I have a very bold personality that I feel the need to put out there on a career, in some sort of career. And you know, I put my emotions are very intertwined in my career, and so I think you can look at astrology as sort of a snapshot of where your soul wants to go, where it's been. And you know, those things influence people too. Some people are really prioritize friendships. Perhaps 11th house dominant people really care about friends, and other people might not. Some people really enjoy communicating, some people don't. And some people's paths are leading them in a direction, and sometimes there are two people whose paths are leading them in complete opposite directions. The only thing that personality type is good for is understanding your engine, understanding how you process, understanding where the other person's coming from. If you're interested in these type of videos, please subscribe, join my Facebook group, Personality Typology for Self-Growth. If you're also interested in astrology, there's also a Facebook group linked below that is Astrology and Cognitive Functions discussion group. If you want to work with me, I can walk through, if you're like trying to figure out your type, if you need help, or if you want someone to just with knowledge of type to help you through any sort of life problem, I have links below if you'd like to work with me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.